Welcome to the Run For It YouTube channel. I'm Finlay, and in this episode we are going to compare two of Saucony's flagship neutral running shoes, the Ride 17 and Triumph 22. We hope this episode helps you decide which ones are right for you. Let's start with the midsoles because they feature completely different materials. The Ride 17 features a PWRRUN Plus foam midsole. This is a thermoplastic polyurethane material that delivers very good protection and energy return. In contrast, the Triumph 22 features one of Saucony's superfoams, PWRRUN PB. Now, this PEBA-based foam delivers the highest levels of cushioning and energy return. As a result, the Triumph feels more protective and bouncier than the Ride, so it's likely the Triumph are going to be the better option for longer distance runs. The cushioning will also take more stress off your working muscles. But interestingly, and while this is very subjective, the PWRRUN Plus foam in the Ride probably feels a little bit softer and a little bit more flexible than the PWRRUN PB foam in the Triumph. So even though these don't offer quite as much protection, they still feel very soft and very plush underfoot. When it comes to the stack height, they're very similar. The forefoot of both models is 27mm high. It's at the heel where it's different. The Ride, it's 35mm, and in the Triumph, it's 37mm. So the Triumph have a 10mm drop from heel to toe, and the Ride have an 8mm drop from heel to toe. Although, as many of you know, where those stack height measurements are taken from can vary from model to model. And when you look at the shoes, you can see that the Triumph midsole looks as if it's a lot thicker than the Ride, and that's definitely how it feels under your feet. The Triumph cushioning feels a lot more substantial. And additionally, after testing and from doing a fair few miles in both models, the cushioning or the foam in the heel of the Ride is definitely compressing faster than it is in the Triumph. So it feels as if the cushioning in the Triumph is lasting slightly longer than what it is in the Ride. Now, you should be able to see from the bottom of the shoes that there's a lot of outsole rubber. And yes, while that adds some weight to the shoes, it also helps increase the durability on offer. So yes, it sounds like the Triumph cushioning will last a little bit longer than the Ride. However, the outsole wear should be very similar across the two models because there's very little differences in the amount of coverage on the bottom of the shoes. And again, looking at the bottom of the shoes, you can see how wide the midsoles are. They've both got very broad base necks, which makes them inherently stable. And it's fair to say that both the Ride and the Triumph sit on the supportive end of the scale when it comes to neutral running shoes. But contrary to what some of you might think, because the Triumph has a superfoam, which traditionally is quite unstable, the Triumph actually feels more supportive and more structured than the Ride does. And if I flex the Triumph, there's obviously a good amount of flexibility to the midsole, but you can feel some resistance, some rigidity to the midsole. In the Ride, it's simply a lot easier to flex the shoe. It just has a slightly more kind of pliable feeling to it, which is essentially what it feels like on a run. And it's just likely in the Triumph, your feet are going to feel slightly more planted and slightly more secure and stable than they would in the Ride. In terms of the fit, both models have a pretty wide forefoot area, so they'll definitely accommodate a range of foot shapes and runners with slightly broader feet. This is also helped by the fact that the midfoot section provides really good lockdown. Where they differ is at the ankle section of the upper. We talked about this in our initial review of the Ride, and we just felt that the back of the shoe lacked a little bit of lockdown, which means that we recommend using that last eyelet with the butterfly lacing to just draw the back of the shoe in and lock it around your ankle. In contrast, even though the Triumph ankle area looks like it's wider and broader than the Ride, this feels a little bit more secure, a little bit more structured than the Ride. It's potentially helped by the fact that there's more padding on the inside of the heel collar here. There's also a little bit more padding on top of the tongue. You can see on the Ride that actually that tongue area is very thin and there's not quite as much padding around the ankle collar. Now that can work both ways, but in this case it just means that you're going to provide or sort of feel a little bit more lockdown in the Triumph than you would over the Ride. In summary then, the main difference comes down to the cushioning. While they both offer a lot of protection, the Triumph 22 offers more. And in our opinion, they are one of the best options for long distance runs. And that's just because they help take so much stress off your working muscles. So they're both designed for slower to steady pace runs. It's worth pointing out that while the Triumph features a superfoam, they're not designed for tempo pace runs. However, that bouncy property to the foam definitely helps you pick up the pace and maintain those steady efforts. Similarly, the energetic nature of the PWRRUN Plus material also makes it easier to sustain those steady efforts in the Ride. So it's fair to say that both models offer a very dynamic underfoot feel and feel very versatile. So you might be thinking, why would you pick the Ride when you could pick the Triumph with its superfoam? Well, going back to that point of feeling dynamic, the Ride probably feels a little bit more dynamic and agile under your feet than what the Triumph does. And that really comes down to the fact that the midsole just feels a little bit more flexible, so you feel a bit more connected to the ground. And as great as the cushioning is in the Triumph 22, that kind of high stacked, ultra plush feel isn't for everyone. And also on some runs, you do maybe just want to feel a little bit more of the ground, and that is when the Ride will feel better under your feet than what the Triumph will. So to finish, if you're looking for maximum cushioning and the highest level of protection, choose the Triumph. If you're looking for a slightly more dynamic, slightly more connected feel, then choose the Ride. They will still feel very plush and very soft under your feet. That brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. As always, if you have any questions at all, please put them below and we will get back to you as soon as we can. See you soon.